everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Farrah, and we are at the start of a new vlog. It is about the middle of November. I think it's November 16th, so we're already halfway through November. I can't believe it. But I just wanted to introduce the vlog real quickly and let you guys know the books that I'm going to be talking about within this vlog this time. So I just finished a book yesterday. This was the one I was reading in my previous vlog, and this one is one of my library holds. So it wasn't something that I owned, but it was called The Body Keeps the Score by Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, I think is how you say his name. And wow, this was something, I'll tell you that. It was a really powerful read for me. What the book is that it talks about, it's a study into how trauma affects our body and brain and the treatments that have evolved along the way to help people in these situations. So first of all, the writing was really, really good. I thought that it's told in kind of a narrative way so that we are following Dr. van der Kolk's, we're following his journey as a doctor of psychology and where he started and where he is now. So it's kind of part memoir as well. But it's told in a lot of different interviews and case studies. So even though the information is overload, it's really told in a way that's not too overwhelming. So I have a little bit of a bias because sometimes I can't tell if this would be something easy for people to read or not. I worked in healthcare for almost 20 years, so I'm very used to a lot of the stuff he's talking about and the terminology, so it's kind of hard to say if it's, like really easy to understand, but I think in general, somebody that doesn't work in healthcare could probably, follow along with this pretty well. So the first half of the book talks a lot about the trauma itself and what it's doing to your brain and how it's affecting your body and the types of stress hormones that are released and kind of like what PTSD does long term to people and why they may act the way they do, why we may act the way we do. And I think his primary studies are in PTSD from war veterans, and then he also, I believe, is an expert in child abuse as well. So I'm not gonna lie, the first half of the book was really hard to read. He goes into graphic detail about a lot of different people's traumas, and the war stuff was very hard to read. I don't realize how much these people have seen and been through. The Vietnam War especially is what he got into a lot of. The children, it was so hard to read. There's a few scenes that I can't erase from my mind that you just can't believe that people have gone through this or that these people would have done things like this to children and to other people. So it was really hard to read. I listened to this on audio. I felt like the audio was fantastic. It was done by a professional audio narrator named Sean Pratt, so it wasn't read by the doctor. And I thought he did such a great job with the terminology and with talking about the case studies and being able to relay all the really difficult scenes well. I thought he put a lot of compassion into his voice. You could hear that as he was talking about his treatments and his patients. And, I felt that listening to it. So that was a great experience of audio. A lot of times I can't really listen to nonfiction with audio because I zone out and I just am not paying attention as well as I could be. But this really worked well. The second half of the book gets into more of the treatments and how they have evolved over time and where he started. And that had more of a positive spin, obviously, because it really showed some of these people getting better and recovering. And it was really nice to see that. I learned a lot. I'm going to put the term here because I can't think of it off my top of my head, but this was super fascinating to me. I had heard of this, but I never really heard about how it worked. So that was incredible to learn about. I liked the chapter on yoga, and they discussed the breathing and the body work and how, just simply taking in a deep breath and releasing it alters your hormones, it alters your nervous system, and it just brings this calmness over your whole body. So breathwork yoga is so important to do as often as you can. And then it kind of ends with what he's doing now. And trauma is one of the largest health crises, public health crises. So overall, right when I finished the book, it was, I was like, wow, this is a 5-star read for sure. It was so good. It was so well written. But I'm hesitant to give out 5-star reviews until after I think about it for a little while. So I thought about it for a little while, and I did read some stuff on Goodreads because I was curious to see, there were some 1- and 2-star reviews. So I wanted to see what people thought and why they would have chosen such a low rating. And a lot of the ratings came from women that were survivors of rape and of sexual abuse. And they talked about how they felt the book was very misogynistic, that it was very insensitive, that it was sexist. So once I heard that, then I could see, I could kind of see what they were talking about. So, I didn't have the initial impression. And to be honest, I haven't been through any of the traumas that these people have been through. So obviously I'm reading it as somebody that had a healthy life with very little trauma. So, I always try to keep that in mind. So I would say if you're in the health profession, if you're in the education system, I would definitely recommend this to read if you can get through all the trigger warnings that are there, and there's a lot. There's even stuff about animal abuse that was hard to read. There's a section about psychological experimentation on dogs, which that was hard to read. And I don't really agree with that. I don't know why they would have done those type of experiments on dogs. But so that was that book. On a positive note, I'm reading An Immense World by Ed Yong. Absolutely loving this, you guys. I'm only in chapter 3, but I am taking my time with this. I am savoring it. The writing is fantastic. I love the style of Ed Yong's writing so far with this. It's definitely a lot of information, but it's told so well. It's told in such a way that you can follow. Again, I'm a little biased because I have a background in zoology, so I'm familiar with a lot of what he's talking about, but a lot of stuff is new to me too. And it's just really an enjoyable read. And I'm so glad I finally picked it up and started reading it. I don't really know what to say except that I'm loving it. It's a 5-star so far. I'm enjoying it as I'm going through it slowly. And the audiobook that I'm just going to start, I definitely need something lighter, is going to be Elatsoe by Darcie Little Badger. And this is an urban YA fantasy. I started the first chapter and I don't know. It's reading a little bit young for me. It's reading like, early teenager so far. So I'm not sure about this one, but it is nice and light and I kind of need that right now. It's not too long. So I'm going to give it a chance and work through it a little bit. But the premise is interesting. It's a murder mystery in a world like ours with magical elements. It focuses on the Lipan Apache tribe. So I am interested in getting into a little bit of the cultural part of that. So that's my wrap up. That's the intro. We'll see where we go from here. Okay guys, it is the evening time. I'm just doing a little bit of reading in my An Immense World book. Took the dust jacket off, dust cover. And I just wanted to show you just a funny example of Ed Yong's writing that I really have been enjoying throughout this book. But in this paragraph here, he says, "By this point, dear reader, you might reasonably be feeling overwhelmed by talk of photoreceptors and midbands and hemispheres and all the other absurd complications that mantis shrimps have packed into their eyes. Or maybe, after all of that, you're feeling a touch of clarity as if you're on the cusp of imagining the stomatopod umwelt. In either case, I have bad news for you. There is more." So I like how he adds these little paragraphs in here. Like, he really is talking to us. He's reporting to us. I'm in the section about vision right now, and he is going a little bit on and on about the mantis shrimp, which is really interesting. But it's just funny that I was starting to feel like, okay, we can wrap up the mantis shrimp and move on. And then he adds this little paragraph. So just really loving the writing in this book so far. coupled with all the really fascinating information in the book. Hey everybody, just wanted to check in real quickly. It's late, it's very late, but I realized I haven't really vlogged about what I've been reading lately, so just want to give you a quick catch up. So besides the two books I mentioned in the beginning, which are In the Men's World and The Body Keeps the Score, I'm also reading two other books during this period, and shame on me for reading way too much that I can handle, so it's taking me forever to get through everything. But after I finished The Body Keeps the Score, which I'm still thinking about this book, it was so good. I started up the audiobook for Elatsoe. And I think I told you a little bit about the plot so far, but it's basically a mystery. It's a YA supernatural mystery, and we're following Elatsoe, or Ellie as she's known in the book, part of the Lapon Apache tribe, and we're following the investigation of her cousin who had been unfortunately murdered. And her and her best friend Jay, it's kind of like this Scooby-Doo quest to find the killer, and all these really cool supernatural things keep happening. There's magic. It's a speculative magic urban fantasy, so we're living in a world just like ours, but she's able to, through generational teaching, she's able to raise the spirit of dead animals, and that part of the book is really interesting, and I'm really enjoying all the Lapon Apache cultural references and stories that we have throughout the novel. I think the writing is really nice, really enjoying both the physical book that I own and the audiobook. The audiobook is really good because she really sounds like a 17-year-old. Her voice, the way she speaks, she's such a natural audiobook reader. I'm really enjoying listening to her tell the story. I really like how the character of Elatsoe, or Ellie, you know, when she comes across things that she's freaked out about, she actually talks to her mother about it. So her and her mother have a really great relationship, and I, as a mom myself that has a 14-year-old and an 11-year-old, I am eating this up. I just love that the author chose to have such a strong mother-daughter relationship within the book. 'Cause sometimes you don't see that. You know, you'll see the younger character going through horrible things and they don't tell anyone and they don't tell their parents, which is always like our worst nightmare, you know. So loving that part of it. I'm really enjoying the other supernatural elements. There's a thing called the vampire curse, where vampires are real, and that's been some interesting episodes with a particular vampire that keeps popping up. I love her little dog, her little ghost dog that follows her around and is always there for comfort. So yeah, so far I'm about at the halfway point, a little over halfway with Elatsoe. Just a fun read, fun to learn about the Lapon Apache tribe. It talks about, of course, colonialism and what's the word I'm looking for? It starts with a D. I'll put it here. It is popping those little themes throughout the book as well, and it's sort of, you know, it needs to be said what she's talking about. So yeah, enjoying Elatsoe so far. The other book I started was an ebook called that I owned, so it's on my Kindle, part of the Read What You Own challenge as well, and this is called Company of Bones. And this was supposed to be a buddy read in MJ's Discord. I don't think she started it yet. The little Discord chat is still blank, but since I'm kind of a slow reader, I decided to start it just in case I can, you know, hopefully finish with whoever else is going to end up reading this. But this is, I don't really know how to describe it. I'm guessing it's kind of a fantasy. It's like a medieval setting. It's kind of Game of Thrones-ish. A little bit of political things going on that I'm not really sure about yet. But it's really good. It was written by one of her friends, somebody I think that she knew in high school, who she recently got in touch with and realized, like, oh my gosh, this person that I know wrote a book. So that's why she chose it for a buddy read. And I'm really, really impressed. If this is his first book, it's written by Brennan Morton. And if this is his first book, like, I'm really, really impressed. I did notice in the beginning there was a little bit of overwriting in terms of the long sentence structure, but that doesn't seem to be the case now that I'm, like a third of the way through. So maybe that was just a little bit in the beginning. But yeah, we're following a couple different storylines. The prologue is something that's happening in the future, and then we go back about 5 years. So we're learning, it's left on a cliffhanger, and we are learning about probably, I guess, what is happening up until this, what seems to be big showdown or battle that's going to happen. So really interesting characters. I think that the world building is very, very good and strong. The visualization's really good. The writing is really good. So I am really enjoying this, and I'm glad I decided to read it. I haven't, really picked up a fantasy type book in a long time in terms of like a swords and battle type of fantasy. Yeah, hopefully, I'm definitely like eager to pick it up and to see what happens. I'm a little confused, as I usually get with a lot of different characters. That's nothing new, but really enjoying that so far. So just wanted to check in. I am reading 3 books right now. Still going strong with An Immense World. I'm up to chapter 6, and the chapters about, there's a chapter about color and color vision. There's a chapter about pain, which I thought was really interesting. And this whole concept and idea that, and I mentioned this, I'm doing a buddy read with Steve Reads with Seamus over on MJ's Discord in the chat section, but he's flying through it. I'm going slow, so sorry, Steve, if you're watching. I'm trying to catch up. I was telling him how I do tend to anthropomorphize animals quite a bit, and which means like you kind of place your human emotions on them, thinking that they feel everything the same way that you do. But it was really eye-opening and interesting to read about how a lot of animals don't experience pain the same exact way that we do. There's differences in the nociceptors and the pain receptors, and there's a difference between the instinctual knee-jerk reactions that happen with pain, as well as pain is basically like the consequence of those reactions. So it's been really interesting to learn about the different animals that, feel pain differently than we do, and some may or may not feel pain at all. You're still not going to get me to eat a lobster. I can't stomach that idea of lobsters being boiled alive, but not all species feel and experience reality like we do. And I guess I was just a little oblivious to that before. I really love this book, you guys. If you like wildlife, if you like animals, and you like reading about science nonfiction, you're going to love this. Treat yourself. If you're waiting for the read for your own challenge to be over with, treat yourself later. It's a great book, and I'm really, really enjoying it. So that's my wrap up for today. Tomorrow is Wednesday before Thanksgiving. I'm not sure how much more I'm going to have a chance to vlog, but I will pick back up on the weekend and hopefully be getting closer to finishing some of these books. I will check in soon.